Thanks, Michael. I'm delighted to welcome to this panel the following folks, and from my far to near right, we don't have left here at Notre Dame, that is Kathy Eichlin. Just a little joke. Kathy, thanks for responding, though. Shows someone's listening. Kathy Eichlin from Syngenta, and Sherrie Bossung from Lilly Foundation, Hernandez of Lenovo, and Jessica Jecmen from Accenture. And I'm going to ask each of them to open this panel with just a kind of a 2-minute response and statement to the following question. What is employee engagement? That's the topic of the panel. And just to get our terms defined, more or less, I'd like every one of you just to address that. How do you understand the term? How does your organization address it? And whatever reflections you have in 2 minutes. Kathy.
Start with me? Okay. Good afternoon. First of all, I would just like to say thank you very much for this opportunity. It's really an honor to be here and to be a part of this forum and to talk about a topic that I'm very passionate about. So thank you very much for the opportunity. I head up internal communications for Syngenta, North America. Syngenta is a global organization based in 9 countries with more than 25,000 employees. So that certainly is our challenge, being a global organization and engaging employees from all around the world. One of the most important initiatives that we've been working on over the last few years is employee engagement, and how do we enable, explore, and energize our employees. And so that is actually a theme that we've been working with the team. And I was talking to someone over lunch today about employee engagement, and what we've been trying to do, and the difference is doing more listening rather than talking to. So one of the initiatives we've been doing is how do we bring cross-functional employees together to listen to them, to give them the voice, to empower them to actually tell us what they need for employee engagement. So that's been about a 2-year program for us at Syngenta all around the world. So we have been in exploring, enabling, and energizing our employees to tell us what they want to do for employee engagement. And what has really come out of that is a storytelling format. So we're doing a lot around storytelling. How do we pull together ambassadors to tell our Syngenta story? How do we pull employees together to actually do community service? So community relations and community service is a very important part of what we do, and actually help spawn the Good Growth Plan, which is an initiative where you're doing globally 1 planet, 6 commitments. So I will go ahead and turn it over to the next person, but thank you again for this opportunity, and I look forward to dialoguing more about employee engagement.
So at Lilly, we're a pharmaceutical company who happened to have some tough times, 4, 5, 6 maybe years ago, with some patent expirations. And employee engagement, obviously a big buzzword in this global economy. So they ended up putting the volunteer program under the corporate brand strategy, which I was managing at the time. And I remember being somewhat irritated about it because the corporate brand management was a big enough job. But I started thinking about employee engagement and volunteerism, thinking, how do we use employee engagement as really the key versus volunteerism to help leverage and build the Lilly brand at a time when some employees were really struggling with the criticism of the pharma industry, as well as a company that people saw we were doing reallocations and there were a lot of changes, challenges, budget restraint. And it was amazing how we looked at employee engagement as not only a way to retain current talent, but to really energize them in some tough times around the passion they had within the external community. And we can talk about this a bit later, but how did we use this as a strategic business tool versus just another buzzword of the global economy?
Okay, hello. I'm Luis Hernandez, and I work for Lenovo. Lenovo is a computer company, digital devices, more or less, because we do smartphones, we do tablets, and we do PCs and servers now. 60,000 employees around the world. And when you truly look at Lenovo, it's a truly worldwide talent. So we believe the foundation is really the employee. Without a good employee, you can do nothing. You have no products. So for us, employee engagement is critically important. And we actually develop a culture where employee engagement is key. It's part of our culture. And we provide two things. We have tools that basically allows the employee to be able to do community service, and I'll talk later more about it, but in the US it's actually very strong, where they can have 8 hours, for example, off to work with the community. And then if they log 40 hours, they can actually get grants from Lenovo to provide digital devices to that community. And then we have certain numbers of ways of matching, dollars. But in addition to that, the company has established relationship with some nonprofits and organizations where the employees can go also and reach out. So it is important that you provide not just the tools, but also the infrastructure to allow that employee to get engaged with the community, because at the end of the day, we live in that community. And when you do that, it's incredible how much you see back from the innovation that you create from them working with the community, but also the branding that they provide to the rest of the community, because they're just touching every single person in that community. So it's very important for us, and we look forward every year how we can make it better and better.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Jessica Jecmen from Accenture. We're also a global firm, a global consulting firm, 330,000 strong and going. So as you can imagine, this is a constant conversation for us, largely because A, we are so big, and B, because we don't sell product, we sell people, right? So we are there to have our people on the road. And as you can imagine, and I'm sure is the case for many of you, it can be quite challenging to live the Accenture way, right? We send our people on the road, we go to our clients are key to us, but that's sometimes hard to maintain longevity in that sort of a lifestyle, with travel. We hire a lot of young folks and then burn them out. We also have a lot of people who are very loyal and have been with the firm 25, 30 years. So we're doing some things right, but we've really started to think about this differently in the last couple of years, because we want people to come and be able to work at our firm, which we love, and to have that longevity. And we don't want you to have to sacrifice a life to work for us and with us and be a part of our family. So really, when we're talking about engagement, we sort of boil it down to we care, right? And we care about the employees, in my nerdy consulting talk, I would say the employee value proposition. So ultimately, we care about you, and we care about you having an ability to grow your career at Accenture. We care about what your personal commitments are, whether you have a family, whether you have other interests, the things that you're trying to balance outside of your time at work. And then we care about what you're passionate about, whether that's something to do with your children, whether that's your interaction in your communities, whether that's something. We have world-class athletes that work for Accenture. So we want people to bring their whole selves to work. We don't want them to have to check personalities at the door, or special interests at the door, or commitment to their community at the door, and then just be on Accenture time. We value all those things because we think all those things are what bring more ideas and diversity and energy and excitement to our firm. So we're really trying to figure out how to get our folks engaged by thinking and communicating to them in a different way that's really more about, we care about you in this firm, we want to talk to you, we want to have individual conversations. Those who subscribe to the Washington Post might have seen we just had a big article where our CEO was quoted in talking about our change in performance management cycle. We're getting rid of the big annual cycle. Ta-da! And we'll see how that goes. But in most of the cases, the driver, A, is that it takes up a lot of time and energy, and P.S., everybody hates it. But also that we want people to be engaged with other people. We want human conversations. We want it to be constant. We want it to be one-on-one. And we think that's how we facilitate more active engagement, right? If you are married to somebody once a year, you don't check in and say, I'm doing okay? Everything good? All right, good. See you next year, this time. Every day it's about holding hands. It's about saying, I love you. It's about saying, how was your day? And that's the kind of relationship, maybe not on quite the same level, but that idea is what we want to generate with our supervisors and our people. So engagement certainly expands to our communities and the giving back, but really through the hearts and minds of our people and what they bring to the table.
Great, thank you. Luis and Jessica were pretty specific, or most specific about what kind of engagement, service to the community. My question is, it sounds like, listening to you, I'm a good moderator for this panel since I'm studiously naive, with the emphasis on naive. So you're teaching me. But it sounds like the engagement is not coordinated from, there's not a particular plan around engagement that matches with some of the goals of the corporation or the organization. That is to say, you want to, what I'm hearing is you want to support that commitment to the community, service to the community. So I guess to put it as a question, how coordinated is that service, are those hours being given? How much do you or the appropriate person coordinate that and do so thinking strategically about your own company's interest? I didn't hear much of that because it's an opening statement. So how much of anyone can?
It's amazingly more coordinated than people think. So remember when I talked about that, the company provide tools. So you can have the freedom of choose what you want to do and give back if that's what you want to do. So those tools are there. But we also have other vehicles to drive, a standard practice. So people that need more structure and a vehicle to go and give back, they have the ability to do that. So for example, in the US, we have like 4 organizations that we work very closely with. And, education is a big part, K through 12. And we work also with the USO for the veterans and the servicemen and women. So we provide technologies and also computers to the kids, some of them that don't have the capability of doing. And also we do a lot of mentorship with NAF and STEM at the high school level, so we can have the employee have a constant communication with the students. So those are driven at a corporate level in the US, for example, because it's regional. But then we give the freedom of, if you want to give money to this charity, well, it has to be kind of approved, and we match it. You can do that. Or if you want to spend the time on this specific community, we reward you for that.
But they come to you. They will, in other words, you're not assigning them a particular, you're not responding to a set of questions or, well, this is the kind of thing I'm interested in, and then you respond, well, let's plug you in here.
No. So there's 2 ways, right? We have specific charities that we go after because we strongly believe, and education is a big one that we do. The USO here in the United States is another one. And then there's flexibility of you going after a charity that you are passionate about. But it has to go through, we won't accept it unless it's, nonprofit and some other stuff, right? It's not just anyone.
Okay.
We have what our chief leadership officer likes to call our former models the 10,000 flowers blooming. I have a passion, you have a passion, everybody has a passion. What a beautiful garden, but did we really make an impact here? And Accenture's about outcomes. So as far as employee engagement, keeping our people engaged, keeping them excited about their opportunities, that's a slight tweak on what we consider our corporate responsibility strategy. So we have a program called Skills to Succeed. So we decided really we need to focus efforts in order to really provide outcomes. And we give, so most of our giving goes through the Skills to Succeed program, which is about enabling, and our focus is more on the adult population, either entrepreneurs or folks to get jobs, to hold an employable, or to be employed and hold a livable wage. So we are really focused on most of our efforts there, but we have different strategies and we have different opportunities, a little bit nuanced by office location or geography. We also have mechanisms for tracking hours. We have employee engagement opportunities or volunteer opportunities. You can give to a university and be matched. You can give to a charity as long as it's a registered charity and be matched. We also fund pro bono teams to do work. So there are a number of opportunities to get engaged. The ones with the significant amount of manpower and money are those that fit into the Skills to Succeed program. Certainly from a foundation perspective, we've set a goal of 3 million skilled by 2020. So our goal is to contribute and to help folks find those jobs and keep those jobs.
Is that Skills to Succeed? Is the Skills to Succeed program dependent upon this employee engagement? These personnel, it operates independently of that, or is this really something driven by employee engagement?
It's a combination. So we fund existing other nonprofits who are contributors and partners with us in in achieving most of these. Notre Dame's a perfect example with the CE3 initiative that we're doing here. But they are, then we have employee opportunities. So for example, we have mentors, people from Accenture that are signing up to be mentors for the program that we're doing here. So we have a chance for people to get engaged, but the firm also is giving towards that end.
Yeah, we have programs like in the U.S. we have Lenovo Care campaign, and we have specific times where we drive that campaign to drive, money and also volunteer hours. And actually, we do it now throughout the year. So there are structured programs, and all fits into the company, corporate policy, social responsibility, and the culture that we have set.
Good.
Okay, I'll go ahead real quick. We have 3 signature programs that we started. One is our Global Day of Service, where we put at least 25,000 people around the globe, 62 countries, in one day out in service. And we've really leveraged that as a team building day. How much money does every company spend on these team building events that don't lead to a lot of team engagement? So we've really leveraged our team building day. We organize it, we coordinate it, and the country's affiliates coordinate their own, but it's all about working with your team as a team building and with community partners, et cetera. Then we have our Connecting Hearts Abroad program, where we send 200 employees from around the globe on 2-week paid mission trips. And that's really about getting them to work together to better understand the healthcare challenges in these countries of great need. And it's amazing how we've coordinated that. So that's a very structured program. It's a lottery system, so people apply, and we select based on 2 people in management, 7 people who are associate level, and 1 hourly level person, 5 different countries, and then 5 from the US, all different functional areas. And the whole intent is get to know your colleagues from around the world and how the company works as a whole, as well as get to know the community. So that's one piece, but from that was born the Connecting Hearts at Home. And we found that so many people were, oh, by the way, we leveraged that Connecting Hearts Abroad program to use social media. So while they're gone on these trips, they will send back notes. They have a loop group sending back notes to their team saying, I'm teaching this grade school class tomorrow, and they have no tools. What kind of games could I do? And then people start saying, hey, have you heard of this rock game? Have you heard of this? And so that 2-way communication starts up, and it's really been this huge ripple effect. And when they come back, they share their story, they share their experience. So that's been really powerful. But from that, they come back and they say, oh my gosh, it's been life-changing. How do I maintain this experience? And so we said, we have the same needs in our own local communities. So we started the Connecting Hearts at Home. And that is a very specific program where people are working again with their functional teams. They've adopted a program. And Lilly has a very generous volunteer policy. If you're getting your job done, you can volunteer as much as you want. Key is, got to get your job done. Supervisor says, you're a far better employee when you're out doing the things you love, and when you come back, you're far more innovative, et cetera. So we have all the same tools I think most major companies do anymore. But we use those as our key signature programs. It's amazing. Now people know what, and we're using skill-based volunteers in these Connecting Hearts Abroad trips to really help augment the money we're investing in non-communicable disease partnerships we have in some of these very desperate communities. So anyway, it's grown, it's blossomed. At the same time, we appreciate the fact people have their own passions. So again, we support that. A lot of STEM education supports our scientists going to that, our engineers. So we have a lot of that going on, but then we have our 3 signature programs that we really support.
And I would just build on that with Syngenta, because we are a global aggregate business company. We also have struggled with transformations over the last few years. So we have found that, yes, we have the global corporate community service programs and the engagement programs that have been pulled together, but we really found in recent years it was really important for us to bring the culture together. So employee engagement actually became, along with customer enthusiasm, working with our customers, part of our 5-pillar strategy. So it became part of the strategy that was built within the corporation. We also found that we needed to really dedicate time and resources to it. So thus we actually created positions within our team and around the world around community relations and employee engagement, realizing that that is something that is critical to have our brand ambassadors inward in order to go out to the community. As a result, I think I mentioned, we're really looking at how do we do more listening rather than talking. So lots of focus groups that have happened over the last few years, realizing that we have corporate engagement and community programs and regional engagement teams, but the value of having the site teams and the smaller group teams as well too. So we actually have been listening to our employees and have created our engagement program around that. So some of the things that have spawned off from that is a Bangladesh program, which is very similar to it's a global experience. 6 months cross-functionally around the world. Our employees get the experience of what our company does in feeding the world. They get to work with the small shareholders and learn about the company. Whether you're in finance or communications or human resources, you get that broad experience. We've also developed mentor programs and things like that around the world as a result of that. More importantly, too, we've partnered with other organizations such as Stop Hunger Now and done community-wide days where all of the employees around the world did a community day, working with food pantries and those type of things. But we also value the importance of teams and how individual teams and individual functions and sites are very different and culturally are very different around the world. So that's certainly been our challenge, and we're continually working and growing from that. A campaign that we just launched 2 weeks ago is called Syngenta Proud. So that's a online, we're using Twitter and we're using Yammer for discussions around sharing your Syngenta Proud, sharing how you are Syngenta Proud. How are you working in the community? How are you working with your teams? How are you engaging with your teams? Because we're finding that by storytelling and telling your own personal story and how you're engaging inwardly is how we're energizing our people. So again, we're trying to, how do we enable that culture, enable that environment within Syngenta to help people explore what is it that interests them and what's going to help motivate their teams and help them ultimately increase their functional abilities as well to energize them. But we have to listen to our people in order to find that. So that's a big learning that we've learned in the last couple of years.
Great, that's very helpful. So it seems like we begin to identify what this does for the employee. It gives the opportunity for service to the community, also to understand, even if you're not in that part of the organization, what others are doing to implement, and their other values. It seems like Syngenta and also Lilly and maybe all of you, that to some degree, this employee engagement practice is also filtering back to the larger organization, the larger company. I want to ask about that. How much is that the case? I mean, are there learnings taken from this experience? Are there ways of integrating into the corporation's own self-understanding and its own practices beyond your unit? What this engagement tells us. What does it do to improve practices and so forth? How sophisticated is that part of the operation? I hope that question's clear. And again, anybody.
Sure. So absolutely, as we are trying new things, such as the Bangladesh project and things like the Stop Hunger Now and some of these engagement opportunities, we're learning from it. So at Syngenta, we have a way of working called frameworks. So after every project organization, we do a good, difficult, different. What was good about it, what was difficult, and what was different. And we literally do the focus groups around that and take those key learnings so that we can change things as we move forward. Absolutely, as a result of that, that is how our site communications teams actually started. Our regional employee engagement team actually was created and started. But more importantly, it was built into the actual culture at the company that actually went up not just in North America, but globally. So realizing that the value of the different cultures and bringing those cultures together, but trying those experiences around the world. We also have an awards program that spawned from it called the Syngenta Awards, and this is based around employees and employee experiences, whether it's things they're doing with their teams or in the community in being ambassadors, and it is a program that's now done biannually, where employees actually pull their stories together, and it's a learning. So you pull all of the winners together, and it's a learning, and it's a year-long process. So we're actually continuing to learn and engage with our teams.
So at Lilly, we definitely do before and after surveys with a lot of our programs, because that data talking about, yes, I'm willing to stay at the company longer. Yes, I'm more engaged in my job. I'm more enthused. I plan to be here 5 years from now. That's the kind of data at a time when budgets are being cut is essential to have in order to maintain your program. And at a time when you see clinical trials maybe, ratcheting down, and they're maintaining our corporate responsibility programs, it's telling that they see the value of that. So I would say that it's very important to collect data, have data. The other thing is to capture the innovation that is a result of these experiences. So we have numerous examples of how teams have come back from some of these global trips and said, it's great that we're creating this medicine that requires injection, but what about the refrigeration? Now people who are the scientists and are out there in the real world saying there is no way that they have sterile enough environments to use the medicine like this. So it's really interesting. They'll be writing back to their colleagues saying, I just saw this. Is there anybody who could think of a way to blah, blah, blah? So the innovation piece is really essential to that. And the last thing I'll say is if you can't demonstrate value back to your company, these programs will not stay in existence. So it's real important that if you're the manager of that, it's nice to have a big heart, the bleeding heart, whatever. But my job is always top of mind. How am I bringing value back to the company, and so that this is an experience that's valued to keep at the company? So.
Yeah, in our company, we actually have a Lenovo Listen survey, what we call it, and it's worldwide, and some of the questions are reflected on the engagement that we do, the community, and how proud you are of working for the company. So that's how we collect data also and engage how important it is. But one of the key things that we do when the engagement happens around the world is the ability of sharing our skills with that job that they're trying to do and volunteer, because we have a lot of skills in different areas that allows and that community to gain. But at the same time, like what she was saying, is we get a lot of ideas on how we can improve our products. I mean, it's just facts. When you have to solve a problem in the field, then you get that idea back. And when you deal with a lot of digital devices, our products become better. So we know that. And it's an important factor of innovation, and that's why we promote it so much, because it's also beneficial for the end result.
Well, just to carry off that same idea, we also are into improving our products, but our products are our people. So we find not only are they having a good experience, but they're bringing back really relevant skills, and they find new ways to problem solve, and they have interaction with folks that they might not otherwise. And as we're building businesses in our communities and interacting with clients, they get more hands-on with what's going on locally, and they learn more about their communities. And that makes them more interesting and relevant and helpful to their clients in turn, who are struggling with the same things. And honestly, we find that sometimes it helps to develop a deeper relationship, not that's just transactional, because we really strive to be trusted advisors to our partners, and that includes we live and work in the same communities, and we're together, and we're serving with you, and we have ideas about how you might do this better. We certainly track and report all the things that we do because we're a little bit obsessed with data, but really we do a little bit. But I think really it's about we find that these folks are really not only more engaged, but also I think really better skilled. And I will say that because Accenture is so large, we don't expect everybody's going to stay, even with low attrition and people being satisfied. We know that we are building, right? Our goal is to improve the way the world works and lives. And part of that is by doing things like, you guys got to meet Chris, I don't know if he's in the room here, but he was with our Accenture family for 10 years. and now he's out leading an organization. To us, that's high five. We consider that a big success. He might not be with Accenture, but he's part of our family, and he's going on to do something that's amazing. And he spent several years with us in our Accenture development partnerships, where we give consulting and strategy advice to nonprofits. So he really was able to develop and build skills that he's then taking on to another level and positively impacting the world. He doesn't have to have Accenture on his business card anymore, but he's still a part of our family. So I let him touch the award last night in the bar. So we kind of expect that we will go off and do other things, whether it's our time with our Accenture family or maybe even beyond.
Great. Okay, we can have kind of quick answers to this one, but it requires some thought. What, you can take it one of two ways. What frustrations have you found or things you'd like to improve about the way you do employee engagement? Another way of getting at a similar question is, what lessons have you learned along the way? So what would you improve? What could be better? What have you learned that would help lead you in that direction?
I don't know that this is an improvement area, but this, my title apparently has, please tell me what you think is wrong with giving behind it. So when I meet people who are, oh, you run the foundation, great. Let me tell you what I think about that. And so a lot of that is really fantastic things, and a lot of things are here, you should do this. And we have so many people, and they're all passionate about something, right? We didn't push out a little clone machine and everybody comes with the same ideas to the table. Everybody has come with their own experiences and their passions and what life experiences make them who they are. So they all have these different interests. And so what's sometimes frustrating to our folks when we have a strategy where we're really focused on outcomes is that if I have a brilliant idea, but it doesn't align with what Accenture is focused on from a corporate citizen perspective, then it is hard to get funding, or it is hard to rally people to do that. So we have to have a little bit of flexibility baked into the model so that you can bring and fund and participate, be in your passions. And we certainly encourage people to be on boards and to volunteer locally, even if it's not through Accenture. But I think and again, I don't know that I would learn from that, because I don't think that we're suggesting that we would go back to the 10,000 flowers blooming model where everybody gets to do their own thing and we fund it. That seems like more of a nightmare. But I think sometimes there is frustration that it's, unless you're really aligned with what we're doing, it's sometimes hard to bring your idea to life.
Well, I have one because it's top of mind. It's kind of an internal issue where you have this new millennial group who everybody thinks they're the only ones who care about making a difference in the world. And so we have a lot of employees who that's been their mantra forever. In fact, the Lilly company is based on founders who started like United Way in Indianapolis and really are just huge philanthropists. So for me, it's helping that age group understand that, so they're forming their own employee organization groups to talk and take to the CEO their ideas about what he needs to do to change the company. And then you've got older employees who are just as impassioned about the things they want to do and how they think we need to change the company. So I'm really trying to get a group together to say, let's all work on this together, because at the end of the day, we all have that same passion, and we don't need to segment all of these ideas. And I think we'll get a lot more done if we take 3 or 4 ideas across the continuum of age and say, let's focus on this. So that's one of the things I'm trying to work on right now. And the other thing is back to the community. When so many people are used to Lilly just giving so much money all the time for anything, and we've become a little more strategic in our giving, what I'm really trying to do now is to help people understand it's not just about money. If we can't give you money because you're an arts organization that is whatever, let us give you a board member. Let us give you skills to help you look at your marketing strategy. What are you struggling with? So I'm really trying to sell the value, the dollar value of our people skills to go along with the fact that it's just not a monetary gift, and actually what we're learning, we're achieving more with these organizations by using our people resource versus just giving these blank checks. So big learning.
Great.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we learn is because everybody comes and wants money. I mean, it's obvious. Even my wife, she has a small business, and you can't imagine how many people come every day just to ask for chocolates and free ice cream for whatever activity. That's just, but But the reality is that we learned from that, and we said, okay, we know we're going to dedicate so much money for this, but how we can do more engagement with the community with the skills of the people. And that's when we transform a lot of our programs in the past few years, where we really try to drive the employee to engage more with the community, because they want to do that. I mean, I don't know about you, but everybody wants to help. It's not millennial, it's not the older, it's everybody. And the key is, how we can make sure that we provide the tools, the access, and the encouragement that, yes, your skill, your passion, you can help somebody with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel that, my key learnings are that people do want to help, people want to be involved, but they're also so into their siloed jobs or their functions and the bottom line. And that's a very tough battle at times, to remind our leaders, to remind our colleagues, to remind our teams how it's important to actually figure out, who we are and how do we want to engage and be involved with with community. So those tools are very, very important. So I think that's one of the tough challenges that we've had. And then from a community standpoint with sponsorships, when I first started there a few years ago, I think we were sponsoring everything. There was no strategy. We were sponsoring every soccer team, baseball team, movie, theater thing that we had. So I think, again, not just coming in and making a strategy, but pulling a team together, and a cross-functional team, to help determine what is that strategy and what is that focus, so that as a community of employees, we're looking at what are we focusing on, and having a cross-functional team that actually looks at our sponsorships and our community relations every year to determine what are our top focuses and what are we going to be supporting and sponsoring. So I think not rushing and realizing that it takes time to do things right.
Great.
I just want to touch on one other key learning I think is really important, especially for many of you out there who are looking for funding or resources or whatever. Being in the job for as long as I have been now, I realize there are so many groups out in the community doing the same thing. So I have become the connector. And I hear about an education initiative. So I'm now working with these, like the United Way, for instance. It's great to have employees to come during their workday to volunteer or read or mentor. But we've got to do it in a way that meets the work demand. So if you get people on their way to work or on the way home from work, you're going to get more volunteers. So I spend a lot of time putting not-for-profits together, saying, I know you've got your own, everybody's striving to meet their own goals, but collectively, so that whole word, the whole buzzword, collective impact, I know it's a big buzzword, but boy, am I ever driving that through so many initiatives, and what a difference it's making. The resources are maximized, their outcomes are being achieved, and we're achieving a lot more with a lot less by getting people to understand and work together. So it's working with the community to use our business strategy to help them leverage that.
That's a great segue to the next question I have. Let's take our lens of this forum, partnerships, and ask about how employee engagement has the potential, can further create partnerships that you wouldn't necessarily create without this. So talk a little bit about our partnership lens and be as expansive, both in what's done already, but also what might be the case.
Well, I would just build on what's happened today and the dialogue. I thought it was an excellent dialogue that happened this morning. So I was glad to be able to listen in on that, because that's what we need to be doing more of, is taking time to stop and listen and look at what partnerships and opportunities are out there. Just because we're an ag business or versus a healthcare company, et cetera, there are a lot of similarities. And we've certainly found that in partnerships with United Way, Stop Hunger Now, et cetera. Mama Ada Foundation, if we're looking at expanding and working with our smallholders in Kenya or in Africa, partnering with organizations that are doing the same thing, so that knowing that when we come to the table, we all have this passion at the right time. But I think what you're doing now, like sessions like today, we need to be doing more of that and taking the time to pause and actually look at those opportunities, because then not just your individual company, but I think as a unified group, we could be doing more and collaborating with things like the United Way that I'm sure we're all working with.
And I'll just touch on that, because I think Lilly might be at the forefront of this a little bit with our non-communicable disease strategy with diabetes. we have this new initiative out where we have partnered with key global leaders dealing with diabetes in India, Brazil, Africa, and Mexico. The whole notion is create these innovative strategies, and they have upwards of 6 to 10 partners looking at how do you deal with diabetes in these very poor areas. And the whole notion is we can't fix the world, but if we could pocket innovative ideas together, and it's called advocate, research, whatever. There are 3 things we're doing. We're implementing, we're researching it, and we're advocating the outcomes of that. It's key. It's been really valuable, and that's now where we're putting some of our skill-based volunteers. The other thing is then with when we send the 200 volunteers across the globe on these mission trips, we've partnered with Cross Cultural Solutions. There's no way Lilly could do that on our own without having a whole cadre of employees doing this. They're an organization already set up doing this, and people go on their trips all the time. So we said, hey, we want 200 of your slots. We're going to send 10 at each, blah, blah, blah. So these partnerships are critical. And then lastly, in our MDRTB, I think we have something going on even with Notre Dame, but it's this whole transfer of skill. We no longer make the tuberculosis drugs internally, so we're transferring that skill to these such countries as China and India, and working to say, how do we transfer our knowledge so that you can become efficient at doing it yourselves, but it's all through partnerships, and it's all through philanthropy. So partnerships are huge, and even in my day job in Indianapolis, I've got about 3 different collective impacts going on around education and the community service and beautification, working with the city, working with 50 partners on our day of service. Everything I do is about collaboration now.
Yeah, so for us, partnership with key groups is important for several reasons, just to provide focus, and also partnerships that are sustainable and long. So we believe in education big, K through 12, but also educating skills for adults that require skills in computers and so forth. But K through 12 is something that we partner around the world. And one of the main reasons, just not to have better educated, students, improve infrastructure in the regions that they are, but, we're a technology company. We need engineers. We need scientists. So by driving that influence into the K through 12, we're expected to get great results of, people to be able to come to work for Lenovo and innovate and create great products for everyone. So to us, it's very essential that partnership is sustainable and grows throughout the years. So you see us put a lot of partnerships dedicated with that.
All great things that were said, and we certainly, have a similar mindset. Accenture's really about a lot of partnerships in how we partner with our clients. We are such a large business that we've got 5 different sort of mini worlds: consulting, strategy, technology, operations. And digital, that we work together. So we're very used to going and finding the best at somebody else. Even if I'm not that person, I know that there's somebody I can go find for you. And it's interesting, just my personal background, I have worked in our operations team for the last 14 years and then moved into the foundation. And I find that they work at very different paces. We were talking about that this morning a little bit, and there's a lot that they can bring to each other, the nonprofit side and the private side. And so when we partner, same as what you were building on before, we really think oftentimes that our people are much better investment than our money. And we would be happy to accept other people's money and our people and make that match together, because we find that sometimes we bring those skills, those people skills, project management, strategy, helping people put together business plans or strategic plans, and that's really where we find our value. We don't want to recreate what the good work is that's already doing, and we think because, like you said, we find the same thing. There are many different organizations doing similar things. So where we can, we try to bring people together and share things. So whether it's technology that multiple people can use, or e-learning platforms that different organizations, we in order to invest in somebody who's doing something, we have an agreement with them that they have to be able to then share across our community of partners. So we're really about sort of setting that tone and figuring out how we can best leverage everybody's right skills.
Great, thank you all. Okay, we want to take some time to open it up for your comments and questions. Please.
A couple of things, and really more almost rhetorical questions, because one of them is a little new. Accenture and your partners just yesterday were awarded an $11 billion grant to redefine EHR in the U.S. and interoperability with the ambulatory EHRs and the acute care side. So this is really a healthcare question. A lot of what we're talking about today has to do with communications, and I can tell you from experience that the real game changer in bringing healthcare at a higher level in the third world centers around telehealth and telecommunications. So I'm very eager, or very excited, I should say, about Accenture's expertise and commitment to Notre Dame and all these projects. And the rhetorical question is, gee, I wonder if this EHR project, which is supposed to come to fruition, over the next few years, might be something that the global projects can get involved with and benefit from too. The other one is just more of a cautionary question, because Lilly is a fantastic example, especially in the area of diabetes, of a corporation that has really ponied up over the decades to sort of redefine what we're able to do with healthcare, and in particular with diabetic care. One of the things that, I hate the word on the ground, but for lack of a better term, one of the things that makes people that are working in the trenches nervous about taking corporate sponsorship is that it does truly remain a partnership and not become an exercise in delegating doctors and nurses and other people in projects to primarily promote corporate interests. And I'm not saying Lilly's an example of somebody who doesn't do it that way, but others are different, So I just think it's worth mentioning that, as somebody said this morning, true partnerships are really what matters, because the people who really know the needs are the hosts, and the other people who learn the needs very quickly are the visitors who happen to be going out and doing the work.
Yeah, I think, the way you have true partnership is by having employees that will execute on that. And that's where employee engagement is all about. If you have the employees that are really engaged with the community, that really truly value the culture that you have in the company, then those decision-making process that happen at the top or at the management level or whatever, it's going to be, reflected in the partnerships that you build later as you do work.
Right, and also partnerships with people who aren't employees.
Right, correct.
Okay.
Question here, Scott.
I've got a queue here, Tom, and then you're third in line, okay? You just want Megan to run across the room.
Excuse me. Thanks for taking this question. I'm a philosopher in the physics department, Tom Loughran here at Notre Dame, and I've been involved since its inception in the CE3 project, because for 9 years now I've been involved in a rural communications project in northern Uganda. We've learned a lot from Accenture, and I'd like to ask you a question based upon the learnings wearing a small nonprofit hat. We've thought much harder. We've learned the difference between our MO and a business model. We've sort of had an MO which was something like, this is a good idea, does anyone want to help? We've moved from there to actually looking hard at who the players are, what the funding streams are, trying to do that. And we think that in that process, it's redefined some terms for us in this whole effort. Terms like philanthropy, terms like donors, terms like charity. We think actually that the employees that you have and that you're caring for and investing in are looking for something. And those of us who've been involved in this sort of nonprofit life think we found it in some ways. It's an enduring, contributory, an open-ended, enduring, contributory community, really. It's a community. It's a community that's making a difference. And frankly, when we look at our funding stream, we think that's what we're selling, which is a little bit different way of looking at it, right? We think that, in fact, what we're selling, whether it is to a big, whether it's to a government agency, whether it's to, a UNICEF, whether it is to a corporation, or whether it's to donors, traditional individual donors, is an opportunity to belong and to work in what is a real partnership. And it's a little bit different way of looking at things. And so my question to the panel is something like that, are we on the right track here? Is something like participatory involvement what your employees are looking for? And is it something, is it what, in fact, you as corporations are looking for? And do we need perhaps a revision of language to broaden it out beyond donor, charity, et cetera?
Yeah, I'm going to take that on just for a second, and then I'll let you. But our Connecting Hearts at Home project is a partnership very similar based on what you just said. We think that part of the reason the United Way people aren't giving as much to the United Way, there's not this impassioned partnership. And so when our various functional areas have identified a United Way partner agency they want to work with, the whole intent is to work with them as a functional area over a year, and to keep that same partner unless something falls apart, to say, it's not just about the money, it's about the strategy, it's about getting to know you, it's about getting our people vested in that organization so that they personally are impassioned and committed and want to stay. So it's funny you mention it, because I was singing that out of that series hymnal this year, saying we've got to try this, because we think people will be more engaged if they become impassioned advocates and really become part of that organization wholeheartedly. So I think it's kind of what you're saying. It's a different level of commitment and partnership.
Let me give you some inputs on how you position that, because when Gary called me out of the blue about the CE3 project, what is it that attracted me to help out, for Lenovo to help out? I knew that I have Notre Dame, driving, a cohesive effort with some partners. I knew that we have Accenture, that was committed for the past few years, right? And then a project that is not just giving out computers and that's it. There was a coordinated effort that says computers that people are going to be able to use for something to grow, right? To me, that makes a lot of sense. A lot of times, there's a lot of push of just giving computers to students in very different countries, just give them away, but then they don't have electricity to turn them on, or they don't have access to the internet. So what are they going to do with it? So having that connection and that story behind it is critical, because at the end of the day, what you want to make sure to do is the resources that you provide, either resources with the employees or the resources of the products that we provide, are going to mean something. And it's going to make it better for that community that eventually is going to buy product from us, right?
Quick.
And I would just build on our Good Growth Plan effort at Syngenta is built upon connections and collaborations with partners and with our employees around the world. So that is what makes it successful in working with the smallholders, and will also help make it grow. So I would just build on that. I think that partnership and collaboration is very important.
We've got we need to adjourn here in a moment, but we have two people who wanted to ask questions. What I'm going to suggest is you each ask your question, make your very brief comment, and then you'll each have 1 minute to respond to those or whatever else you want to say in conclusion. So, Robert.
Yeah, very brief question. I'm intimidated by following a philosopher, physicist.
I didn't know that existed.
I'm just a marketing guy that lives and works in Indianapolis, familiar with Lilly and John Licklider. So a softball question. How critical is the involvement or the support of the CEO in the employee engagement program?
And I'll just answer that quickly.
I wouldn't call that a softball, but
Yeah.
let's wait for just a second and listen to the second.
Okay, my question has to do with the connection between employee volunteerism and the grant-making process within the companies. And if there is a bridge there, and if so, like how defined is that process? Because I feel like we're always coming to that later in the game, when as if we kind of thought about that on the front end, it could be more effective. So I'm just curious what you would say about that.
CEOs and grant making.
Okay, well, since it was
You each have
our
1 minute.
CEO, I'll just say, if it weren't for a very strong CEO, these kind of things aren't even going to be discussed. So leadership's essential. And I would say the second thing about the grant making and the people, we've gotten to a point where we look at grants now and we say, could we leverage people instead of money? And that becomes either dual or trade-off.
Gary, I'll take mostly your question, although I think yours is important too. I have a really cool job because there are people within the Accenture communities that are doing heavy lifting and they're making these projects happen like CE3, and I get to help take their ideas, give them a little coaching, and then I'm basically the storyteller to our foundation board to make recommendations to say, let's write a check here. So part of what builds that story and that credibility, because they're looking for a tie in employee engagement, that's one of the things that is on our list, our criteria. So it's always a question that comes up every single time. It's what our people want to know. Great, this is a good project, but what's it going to mean to our people? And some are projects that we can do mentorships with. Some we have people who go volunteer every weekend. I mean, it's different levels, but we sort of assume by the time somebody gets up to the level where they're coming to the foundation for a grant that they're a pretty legitimate organization. So what really sells it is what the involvement is to our people, what it means to our people, and what kind of story that's going to develop. So for us, it's really critical, and I echo the same thing. If you don't have leadership's buy-in and leadership doesn't believe that this is important, you're not having the right conversations with people who can really make an impact. So I think that's critical, not just the CEO, but all the leaders.
Yeah, just to give you an example, our Senior VP of HR and our CEO heavily involved in the culture. I mean, culture to me is very important for the company, not just lip service, because if not, people will create their own culture and it'll be different in many places. But our CEO, for example, and Senior VP are committed to the service of the community in different ways, especially promoting engineering into young women and also diversity and so forth. But our CEO actually asked. I mean, he gave the past 2 years. He's been giving part of his bonus to the employees of the company that have the lowest salaries. Every year he's been doing that. People see that. I mean, and that just influences, right? And it makes people do other things to help others. So very important.
And I would answer both questions. It's not just the CEO, but it's all of the leadership team. And what we found is it's not just the leadership team, but it's the mid-level managers. I mean, we really have to engage and inspire and get that support of the mid-level managers and the CEO and the leadership team to empower us, empower employees to be innovative, to look for new ventures and look for new opportunities. But I think that would be my other key learning that I would leave with, is yes, you want to have the leadership, and you want the leadership to be evocative and transparent, because it's got to come from the heart. It can't just be a script that you're giving them. This has to be something they want to do and they want to believe in, because you're going to need their support with your employees and with your mid-level managers as well. So don't forget the mid-level managers, because those are the people that your employees are looking to each and every day.
Okay, you've been very articulate and informed us, and here's your final question that you must answer in 1 or 2 sentences at the most. Since you've really spoken about your organizations, your companies that have given a lot of thought and practice in this area, do you consider the 4 of you, I won't, you don't have to speak just for yourself, representative or exceptional in this sense? That is, if you think about, I know this is an unfair question, but if you think about other companies that you know of, is this kind of representative, or are you for representing a minority that's kind of cutting edge on this question? Get the question? Being an academic, I've used 8 sentences to ask it. You only have 1. You only have 1 to answer.
Let me go first. I'm going to say representative, but continually growing. We always have to grow and educate.
I would definitely say you're seeing most big companies anymore. This is part of your corporate strategy.
Yeah, it's part of the company culture. I would say, we need to make sure it continues to grow in the medium and small businesses, so it completes, and that's one of the things that I think we need to do better.
I would say that Accenture represents everybody's desire to help, but we excel in our ability to execute.
I would let you know this. We're at a Catholic university. We believe in miracles. You've just witnessed one. If there were 4 professors up here, the first one would still be talking in response to that question. So let's join me in thanking